My name is Emily. I'm 26 years old, and I live in a quiet town in the southern United States. When I was younger, I dreamed of a peaceful and simple life. A cozy house, a kind man, a happy marriage, and maybe 1 or 2 children. I thought love would come easily, like in the movies. I believed if I gave love, I would receive it back. But life had other plans for me. I met Jason when I was 22. He was 25, tall, with brown hair and deep blue eyes. He had a warm smile and a great sense of humor. We met at a friend's backyard barbecue. He asked for my number and I gave it to him. The next day, he sent me a message. "Would you like to grab coffee sometime?" Said yes. We met downtown and talked for hours. I felt like I had known him forever. He made me laugh, brought me flowers, and called me every night. After 3 months, I told him, "I love you." And he said, "I love you too." I believed him with all my heart. We stayed together for a year. I worked at a grocery store and he worked at a local auto repair shop. We didn't have much money, but I didn't mind. I thought we were building a future. But soon everything started to change. Everything changed one morning when I woke up feeling sick. At first I thought it was just the flu, maybe something I ate. But the same thing happened again the next day. And the next. My best friend Mia looked at me and said, "Emily, are you sure you're not pregnant?" I laughed nervously. "No, I don't think so." But deep down something told me I should check. I bought a pregnancy test at the drugstore. My hands trembled as I waited for the result. When the second line appeared, my heart stopped. I stared at it for minutes, not knowing what to feel. I was pregnant. That evening, I went to Jason's apartment. He opened the door and smiled like everything was normal. I sat down, looked him in the eyes, and said softly, "I have something to tell you." His smile faded. "What is it?" "I'm going to have a baby." For a moment, he just stared at the floor. Then he asked, "Are you sure?" I took the test. "I'm sure." He stood up and walked to the window. He didn't look at me. His voice was quiet. This isn't the right time. I'm not ready to be a father." A cold wave rushed through my body. I tried to remind him. "But we love each other." He didn't answer. That night, he didn't hold me. He didn't kiss me. Barely slept. In the morning, he left early. All he said was, "See you later." But something in my heart knew. He was already gone. After that day, everything began to fall apart. Jason stopped calling. He stopped replying to my messages. Days went by in silence. I waited, hoping he just needed time. But deep down, I knew he wasn't coming back. One afternoon, I went to his apartment. I knocked on the door. No answer. I texted him, "Please, can we talk?" A few minutes later, he replied with just one message. "I can't do this. I'm sorry." That was the last thing I ever heard from him. I sat on my bed, phone in hand, tears pouring down my face. I cried for hours, not just because I was hurt, but because I felt completely alone. I was pregnant, and the father of my baby had walked away without a second thought. Eventually, I gathered the strength to tell my parents. My mom cried with me. My dad didn't say much at first. He sat quietly for a while, then finally looked at me and said, "We're here for you, Emily, no matter what." So I moved back home. It felt strange, like I had taken a step backward in life. I was sleeping in my old room, surrounded by childhood memories. But I was no longer a child. I was about to become a mother. Each day was heavy. I was exhausted, emotionally and physically. But something inside me, maybe the tiny heartbeat growing inside, kept me going. This wasn't the life I had planned, but it was now the life I had to live. And somehow, I knew I would find a way through it. For the sake of my baby. Time moved slowly, but my belly grew steadily. I went to the doctor for my first checkup. I lay back nervously as the cold gel touched my skin. Then I heard it. the tiny, fast heartbeat of my baby. Tears filled my eyes. It was real. There was life inside me. I smiled and cried at the same time. Despite the exhaustion, I kept working at the grocery store. Every shift felt longer, my feet aching more each day. But I saved every dollar. I bought baby clothes, diapers, and a small crib. I wanted everything to be ready. Then one night, near the end of my pregnancy, I felt a sharp pain in my back, stronger than anything I had ever felt. I called out to my mom, and she rushed me to the hospital. The nurse smiled gently. "You're going to have your baby tonight." Fear washed over me. The pain came in waves. I held my mom's hand tightly. Hours passed. I cried, I screamed, and just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, I heard a soft, fragile cry. "It's a girl," the nurse said, placing the tiny baby in my arms. She was small, warm, and perfect. I looked at her and whispered, "Hello, baby. I'm your mom." I named her Sophie. For 2 days, we stayed in the hospital. I held her close, not wanting to let go. She was everything, my hope, my strength, my second chance. When we finally went home, life changed forever. I was no longer just Emily. I was someone's mother. Back at home, everything felt different. My mom helped during the day, holding Sophie so I could shower, making dinner when I was too tired to stand. But at night, it was just me and my baby. Sophie cried a lot, sometimes for hours. I was exhausted, barely slept. My body ached, my eyes burned, and there were moments I felt like I was falling apart. But every time I looked at her small face, everything softened. I changed her diapers in the dark, whispered lullabies to calm her, and rocked her gently until she slept. Some nights, I sat on the edge of my bed, holding her in one arm and crying quietly into the other. There were no breaks, no silence, just this constant cycle of caring, feeding, cleaning, and loving. Jason never called. He never asked about Sophie. One afternoon, I saw him on the street. He walked past me without a word. His eyes met mine for a second. Then he looked away. I wanted to scream. "How can you leave your child?" But I stayed quiet. I looked down at Sophie, asleep in her stroller. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "You don't need him. You have me. I'm enough." When Sophie was 5 months old, I went back to work. My mom watched her while I stocked shelves and smiled at customers. Every minute I was away, I missed her. But I worked hard, not for me but for her. I was tired, but I was determined. I was alone, but I was never without purpose. 'Cause I was a mother. When Sophie turned 2, I received a letter from the housing office. I had been approved for a small apartment. It wasn't fancy. Just 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and plain white walls. But it was mine. I was nervous and excited. My parents helped me pack. We folded baby clothes and boxed up Sophie's toys. My dad loaded the car while my mom double-checked everything. Sophie clapped her hands and said, "New home." That night, we ate toast and tea on the floor. Sophie giggled as she dropped her spoon, and I smiled through my tiredness. I looked around at the bare walls and whispered, "This is our home now." Life in our little apartment was quiet, but not easy. I worked long shifts, cooked simple meals, cleaned, and took care of Sophie. Every penny went toward rent, bills, and baby needs. I stopped buying anything for myself. My old jeans and t-shirts were enough, as long as Sophie had what she needed. At night, I read to her. Her favorite book was about a silly blue bear. She'd laugh and point, saying, "Bear funny." I kissed her cheek and said, "You're funny too." Some nights, after she slept, I sat in the kitchen with cold tea in my hands, feeling the silence press in. I missed adult conversations, missed being held. But I didn't miss Jason. I didn't miss the pain. Chose peace. Chose stability. Chose Sophie. She was my light. Our apartment may have been small, but the love inside it was big, and that made it enough. Sophie was growing so quickly. She was now 4. Taller, more curious, full of energy. Every morning she greeted me with a cheerful "Good morning, Mommy," and a big hug. Her favorite game was trying on my shoes, walking around like a tiny grown-up. I'd laugh and say, "You'll trip," but she never did. We had a routine. I made breakfast, walked her to daycare, then rushed to work. At night I read her favorite book, the one with the red bus, and she'd always shout, "Beep, beep," at the right page. Those little moments filled my heart. One Friday evening I came home late from work. My mom had been watching Sophie. As I walked in, Sophie ran to me, arms wide open, yelling, "Mommy, you're home!" I picked her up and held her tight. Later that night, while playing with her doll, Sophie looked at me and asked quietly, "Mom, do I have a dad?" Froze. My hand stopped mid-stir of my tea. I sat down beside her and gently asked, "Why do you ask, honey?" She replied, "At school my friend said her dad picks her up." I took a deep breath and said, "Yes, you do have a dad, but he doesn't live with us." She looked up at me, eyes soft and calm. "Why not?" Pause. "He made a choice. He decided not to stay." Sophie was silent for a moment. Then she smiled and said, "But I have you." Tears filled my eyes. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "Yes, baby, you have me, and I will never leave." The day Sophie started school came faster than I expected. She wore her new uniform, a little too big, but she didn't care. She held my hand tightly as we walked to the classroom. Her pink backpack with shiny stars bounced with each step. I could feel her nervous excitement. I knelt beside her and whispered, "You're brave. You're going to do great." She looked up and asked, "Will you wait for me?" I smiled and said, "Yes, I will always wait for you." She gave me one last look, waved, and walked into the room. I stood at the door until she disappeared inside. Then I walked outside, sat on a bench and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was so proud. Later that week, a woman approached me at pickup. "Hi, I'm Sophie's teacher," she said. "I just wanted to tell you, she's doing really well. She's kind, curious, and always helping others." Her words touched something deep inside me. All the nights alone, all the early mornings, all the exhaustion and fear, they had led to this moment. Hearing that my little girl was happy, growing, and shining in her own way. I may not have had much. I may have made mistakes. But I gave Sophie everything I had. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Life didn't get easier, but it became quieter, more peaceful. Each day followed a rhythm. I woke up early, made breakfast, helped Sophie get ready, then walked her to school. I worked long hours at the store, counting every coin, stretching every paycheck. There were still bills to pay and worries to carry. But I had found my balance. Sophie was my joy. She talked more now, asking questions like, "Why is the sky blue? Where do birds sleep?" Her laughter filled every corner of our tiny apartment. Every night we curled up together with a book. She still loved the red bus story. I still loved the way she said "beep beep" with a big smile. One Sunday at the park, she ran around with other kids, free and full of life. I sat on a bench, watching her chase butterflies. A man nearby turned to me and said, "Is she your daughter?" He nodded. "She looks so happy." I smiled, feeling my heart swell. She is. As I watched Sophie spin in the sunlight, I thought about everything we had been through. The heartbreak, the loneliness, the fear, and the strength it took to keep going. She was healthy, safe, loved. And that joy on her face, I had built that. Alone. I may have lost a partner, but I gained a purpose. And in Sophie's laughter, I finally found peace. once thought I would fall apart. There were nights when I held my child in my arms, crying silently with no one to know. But I stood back up. I smiled because my child needed me. I'm not wealthy. I'm not perfect. But I have love. And I have the determination to never give up. I learned to be strong not because I wanted to, but because I had to. I am a mother. I am a protector. I am everything on my own for my child. And I am proud of that. If you're tired, lonely, or feeling lost, please don't let go. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to keep going. Every small step you take today becomes strength for tomorrow. You are enough. You are strong. And you are not alone. You can do this, because within you burns a fire that nothing can extinguish.